I'm very pleased to say that Sir Mike Rake, who is chairman of the International Chamber of Commerce UK, joins us here in the studio. Great to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's dive into your thoughts, your latest thoughts on Brexit, because very recently you and others have been campaigning for another referendum. Is that still your wish?
Yes, so trying to put this into context, firstly, let's understand that the proposition by the Prime Minister, by the government, is a lot better than no deal. I mean, there's virtually no economist, no businessman who doesn't believe that a hard Brexit, a Brexit without a deal, could be hugely damaging to our economy and damaging to the European economy. So that is not desirable. Having said that, this deal is suboptimal. Clearly, I think the vast majority of business, not only at the time of the referendum, but today, believe the best, option for the United Kingdom, for its economy, for its investment, for employment, would have been to remain in the European Union. I mean, so that hasn't changed. But
are you in danger of just fighting the 2016 battle when you should be fighting the 2018 one?
We're in danger of doing that sometimes. But look, here, I think, first of all, the only thing I would say about the 2016 referendum, I don't think anyone believes, other than the fact that those things that were said in 2016, the proposition to leave, those sort of opportunities don't exist. I mean, it's very clear there's no dividend, no trade treaties have immediately been renegotiated, they're going to take a very long time. But I think the really important thing is to look at what that's led to. And we do have a situation where the country is completely divided. Both political parties are completely divided. The Brexiteers themselves are completely divided as to where we are. And it seems in those circumstances, and particularly is it possible Parliament rejects this proposition, it seems to me the only sensible solution is go to the people and give them a vote on whether or not they believe, on the one hand, accept what the government's come up with, or stay in the European Union.
Is the danger, though, and I appreciate this is a broader sort of societal political question, but isn't the danger, though, that you just get a result that's maybe the other way, but also indicates a very divided country and doesn't really solve the division?
That, of course, is a danger, but I think let's not forget that in terms of the 2016 referendum, 74% of the young people who voted to remain. There are a lot more young people today. Let's not forget, we keep talking about 17 million people who voted to leave. There are 30 million people who did not vote to leave. So I think it's the best chance you have to try and get clarity about what is exactly on offer. That wasn't in front of the people in 2016. The Prime Minister's worked really hard to put something there that is on offer. We can choose between that and remain. I think Parliament, it's quite clear from most of the observations you get, Parliament will never vote to leave with a hard deal, with no deal at all.
So this is interesting because I was at the CBI conference at the beginning of this week, and the CBI has backed Theresa May's deal. You used to lead the CBI, of course. They've backed it, but it's very much in the context that you set out at the start, that this deal on the table from Theresa May is better than no deal. So I guess if that is what it comes down to, can you understand why business has decided to back May?
Well, look, first of all, I would say the CBI has a very important role to play. It's a membership organisation, and what it has to do is do the best with what it's got. And I can completely understand, how Caroline has come out and saying, look, this is suboptimal, but it's a lot better than the opposite. In these circumstances, we should get behind it. And I think the CBI has a very important role engaging with government to sort of make sure in that period, which is a further transition period, let's be clear, we haven't solved anything, we just solved the original divorce, to work with them. But, I think there are still a lot of business people who do believe, actually, that there should be a second vote. They're probably, the percentage is less than those who voted to remain, but there's still a lot who do increasingly believe that it is important that we have a second vote.
Because the business people you speak to, do they just not want to get on with this and get it done? That's some of the messaging you got from the CBI conference.
Look, I mean, as usual in something as complex, those who cannot believe where we are, including most of our friends around the world, most of our investors, there are those who think, let's just get on with it because this is creating more uncertainty, and those who think this is so fundamental for our future, probably the biggest single decision we're going to make, impacting hugely on the young people who don't want to leave.
Yeah. So what we're talking about now in terms of the cold face of the negotiations then, Mike, obviously we've got the withdrawal deal on the table from Theresa May, which is the bit that's legally binding. And then we've got the political declaration, 7 pages so far, more detail to follow. That is not legally binding. Do you divide up your thoughts as to what you think of withdrawal and what you think of because I'm guessing most of your focus is on the thing that's actually not legally binding and hasn't really been settled.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the two aspects of this, I think most of us sort of think on the one hand, your left-hand side of your brain is thinking as a business person, on your right hand is sitting as a citizen. So these things a little bit get conflated into the way forward. So, you know, as a citizen, I think it's incredibly important that we have very close relationships, open, liberal relationships with Europe. As a businessman, we need to understand, for example, we need Europe. We need, I mean, 98% of the people we've had migrants working here, we absolutely need. They keep our economy going, whether it's leisure tourism, where I'm chairman of a major hospital. You know, 20% of our people come from the European Union. In our hugely important research centre in Great Ormond Street, 46% come from Europe. You know, our leisure and hospitality industries there. Yeah. These are people really important to our country. So we've got to keep an openness and not sort of, you know, recognise how valuable this is to us.
I mean, there are some voices, I should just point out, some Brexit business voices like Tim Martin at Wetherspoons, who thinks that hard Brexit wouldn't be that awful. And he clearly works in the hospitality industry, and he comes up with a different answer.
All I can say is all my engagement at the CBI, everyone I speak to, that's not the view of the majority of people.
So in terms of the vision for the political declaration, I mean, do you think that a free trade area in goods, where we keep a common rule book, whether the EU says yes or no to that, is that the future?
Well, look,
if you can't have staying in as we are now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think, you know, you and I discussed this before, my position right from the very beginning, and, you know, my personal position was very, very clear. After 45 years, you know, of European Union, of legislation with 50-plus trade treaties, 30-plus regulatory agreements, huge complexity at every level of society, from the NHS to transport to driving licenses, we needed a 5 to 10-year transition period, and that's what's going to end up as. And in my view, we should stay in the customs union, absolutely, and so far as possible stay as close to the single market as we can to ensure we benefit from these trade treaties. And, you know, there's a lot of mythology. You know, the fact is, you know, the trade treaties we already have within the European Union are hugely valuable. You know, whether, I mean, Germany exports 2-3 times what we do to China. You know, thanks to the Korean trade treaty, we've doubled our trade to Korea. It's an EU treaty.
Okay.
Nothing to stop us trading under the current treaties.
I remember you saying just after the vote, 5 to 10 years would be the transition we would need.